The views expressed in this blog are hosted on my own website, are strictly personal, and do not reflect the views of any organization. Hello and welcome friends once again to Straight Bat, my weekly video blog where, as the title suggests, I comment with a straight bat. Has Ghulam Nabi Azad become truly Azad from the Gandhis as his supporters are claiming, or is he modified as his critics are alleging, or is the truth somewhere in between? Now today on Straight Bat, I bring you the inside story of the latest rebellion in the Congress. To be honest, Ghulam Nabi Azad is the last person you would associate with rebellion. You see, all his political life, Ghulam Nabi Azad was a classic old-style Congress darbari. From Sanjay Gandhi to Indira Gandhi to Rajiv Gandhi to Sonia Gandhi, with brief honeymoons with Narasimha Rao and Sitaram Kesri, Azad is one politician who knew how to stay on the right side of the Congress's power circle. So how did he get it so wrong with Rahul Gandhi that he not only decides to quit the Congress after nearly half a century in the party, but actually does so with anger and bitterness? You see, Azad's problems with the Congress leadership begin soon after the party's 2014 election debacle. Azad was appointed leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, and this was around the time when Rahul Gandhi was slowly but surely asserting himself within the Congress. Rahul Gandhi was convinced that the party's older guard had led UPA 2 down. He bought the argument made by some of his close confidants that this older guard had enjoyed all the perks of office but had not done enough to give back to the party. Now, at one Congress meeting, Rahul Gandhi reportedly made it clear, without naming anyone, that ministerial corruption had cost the Congress the 2014 election. He reportedly looked around the room while he was saying this, even as the likes of Mr. Azad turned to Sonia Gandhi for support. Mrs. Gandhi stayed silent. Azad came out of the meeting and reportedly told Sonia Gandhi's all-powerful political secretary Ahmed Patel that he felt insulted by Rahul Gandhi's attitude towards the older guard. I gave so many suggestions for reforming the party at the Jaipur session in 2013 when Rahul was made Congress vice president, but the fact is no one acted on them, and today we are being held guilty for this 2014 defeat, is what Azad confided in Patel. Now, Ahmed Patel, who himself had begun to slowly feel marginalized for the first time in decades, asked Azad to focus on his Rajya Sabha tasks and said, "Don't worry, don't get hassled." Azad, though, could sense that as Sonia Gandhi withdrew from day-to-day activities, Rahul Gandhi was slowly taking over the Congress party. When in December 2017, Rahul Gandhi does formally take over as Congress president, Azad was amongst the first to congratulate him. You see, the Ukta Suraj syndrome, as they call it, rising sun in Delhi politics. Rahul, for his part, was increasingly convinced that many of this old guard, including Azad, were not willing to take on the Modi government because they had skeletons in their cupboard. The conviction was strengthened when he felt that the Congress party in the Rajya Sabha hadn't done enough to gherao the Modi government on the Rafale issue. You see, Rahul Gandhi by 2018 was convinced that the Modi government was involved in payoffs in the Rafale aircraft deal. He wanted the party to go all out and make this, in a way, the Bofors moment of the 21st century. Azad wanted to be more cautious. By contrast, Mallikarjun Kharge, who was then the Congress's leader in the Lok Sabha, was more than happy to shout and scream against the Modi government's alleged corruption. Why don't we see the same aggression in the Rajya Sabha? Rahul Gandhi reportedly asked a senior Rajya Sabha MP at the time. Remember, this was also a period when the Congress actually had relatively strong numbers in the upper house, in the Rajya Sabha. Azad was once again reportedly miffed and confided again in Ahmed Patel that Rahul Gandhi was barking up the wrong tree. If he can go and hug the Prime Minister in Parliament and wink, what is the aggression that I am supposed to show? It is not in my nature to go to the well of the house, is what Azad said. He also reportedly complained to Sonia not for the first time, that he was being needlessly singled out. You see, at the same time, Azad was proving his indispensability in a way to the Congress by helping to stitch together an alliance in Karnataka in June 2018, a post-poll alliance, by using his influence over H.D. Devagowda and the fact that Azad had been General Secretary in Karnataka meant that he had good equations cutting across party lines in Karnataka. 2018, in fact, was ironically a good year for the Congress. The party not only shared power in Karnataka, but it also won Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. Rahul Gandhi, therefore, it seemed, was slowly proving his mettle as Congress president. Well, then comes the 2019 general elections, and Rahul Gandhi's aggression is once again manifest in the slogan Chaukidar Chor Hai. Azad stuck to his line that he wasn't going to go around calling the Prime Minister a chore in public gatherings. Team Rahul was on the other hand convinced that this was happening because the Modi government reportedly, and this is important, had documents on the Roshni land scam in the Kashmir Valley, and Azad's name or people close to Azad were on the list of beneficiaries. The anger spilt out when soon after the Congress debacle in the elections at a CWC meeting, Rahul Gandhi asked for a show of hands of all those who had endorsed the Chaukidar Chor Hai agenda. Many seniors like Azad didn't respond, and Rahul Gandhi, again without revealing names, reportedly chided these leaders for being soft on the BJP. This time, Azad reportedly did speak up and say that this character assassination was avoidable at a time like this. Remember, it was soon after this meeting in July of 2019, that Rahul Gandhi resigns as Congress president, accepts moral responsibility for the defeat, and Sonia Gandhi takes over as interim president. At the first, the likes of Azad were rather happy to have Mrs. Gandhi back at the helm. You see, they enjoyed a certain comfort factor with her over the years, but they soon realized that Rahul Gandhi was the one still calling the shots. Azad complained to Mrs. Gandhi again that he wasn't even being consulted on major issues. Team Rahul, on the other hand, was equally convinced that Ghulam Nabi Azad had done some kind of a quiet deal with the Modi government. When in August 2019, Article 370 was withdrawn from Jammu and Kashmir, Ghulam Nabi Azad was not touched, unlike other valley leaders who were put under extended house arrest. Azad was the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha and retained all his privileges, including his bungalow in the national capital. Now, when in August 2020, Azad became one of the signatories to a letter asking for a full-time president for the party, amidst other reforms, he was then perceived as the architect-in-chief of this so-called G23 grouping that had been formed, along with lawyer politician Kapil Sibal. Azad goes again and complains to Mrs. Gandhi that he is being singled out, but it was clear at this time that his days were numbered, especially after Ahmed Patel passes away in November 2020. You see, and this is important, Patel, many people believe, was the one who goaded Azad into signing up to lead this G23 rebellion with an assurance that he would slowly garner support for him. After Patel's death, a meeting was in fact held at 10 Janpath in December of 2020, at Sonia Gandhi's instance, with all the G23 members, or many of them present, along with Congress loyalists. Assurances were given, but nothing happened. There was no real change in the way the Congress was functioning. The final straw, my friends, apparently comes in February 2021, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi bids a tearful farewell to Ghulam Nabi Azad as leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha. Modi had a good equation with Azad that stretched back to the days when the two of them would meet regularly at chief ministerial meetings between 2005 and 2008. Even after stepping down as leader of opposition, Azad retained his official bungalow. When in July this year, the Congress was deciding on Rajya Sabha nominees, Azad's name came up and was suggested in fact by Sonia Gandhi as a possible choice from either Rajasthan, Maharashtra or even possibly Jharkhand. Rahul Gandhi reportedly vetoed it. We need young people who are ready to take the battle to the BJP, was Rahul Gandhi's argument. Sonia Gandhi subsequently reportedly rang up Azad to apologize for her inability to give him a Rajya Sabha seat, something that he had held from 1989. In a sense, for someone who had been in and around the Congress organization for decades, the feeling that Azad now got that he was out of the inner circle, becoming increasingly irrelevant, not just even in Delhi, but even in Jammu and Kashmir, where some new leaders were being groomed by Team Rahul. The departure was inevitable in that sense. The angry letter, I must confess, was not. In fact, the one question that no one, not even Mr. Azad when I interviewed him, would answer: who wrote this letter that shook the Congress? You see, Ghulam Nabi Azad, my friends, is a man of few words. Some of the language in this letter is clearly not his. So was the letter drafted by someone within this G23 group, as some people suggest to me, or did someone close to Modi vet it, as Congress loyalists now allege? My own sense, my friends, is that Ghulam Nabi Azad is not Modified, not yet at least, but he is clearly yearning to return to a position of some power and influence, but just doesn't have the clout, the weight to split the Congress. Just days after the letter controversy, interestingly, Ghulam Nabi Azad met other members of the G23, where the possibility of forming a new national party was discussed, but no decision has yet been taken. Clearly, unlike the BJP, there is no Margdarshak Mandal retirement space in the Congress party. So expect, my friends, Ghulam Nabi Azad and his friends to keep the pot boiling. As they say in politics, picture abhi baki hai. That was the story of the rebellion in the Congress that's been making the headlines, and that was the Straight Bat. Thanks very much for watching. Do of course subscribe to my YouTube channel for many more such videos. For now, stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind, Namaskar, Ganpati Bappa Moria.